friends, it's Akidearest.
Nope, instead it's me, NECRO13. And before we even get started on this dumpster fire of a video, I just wanted to go ahead and let you know that I see a lot of you guys out here in the comments section and subscribing to me, and I do truly appreciate it. But here I'm going to give you some backstory on Akidearest and my dislike for a lot of the things that she does. She has over 1 million subscribers, and obviously she's a much bigger YouTuber than I am, especially when it comes to the anime department. But she's also not very knowledgeable, and she's really clickbaity. She is quite literally the quintessential shit poster. Like, she literally has these videos where it's just her clickbaiting the shit out of all of your views. Like, she knows that you're gonna click on these if she's in a compromising position, or even if she has a video like Dear Aki where she responds to certain questions on Twitter, and she generally made a video out of it, and she didn't even respond to the question. With that, you're probably wondering what I'm going to be trying to debunk today. Well, it's a video about Akidearest, and it's the video titled, "Is Anime Sexist?" It's a video that was published back on September 21st of 2016, and the likes to dislikes are a little odd, and they're kind of strange when you consider what you see in the comments section. But I'm sure that there's nothing to it. I just left my 2 cents, and you probably won't agree with anything I say in this video, or even the little bits and pieces. But at least the information is here, and it's present. But I'll go ahead and leave you to your imagination.
Hey friends, it's Akidearest.
Yeah, don't worry, we already know who you are.
So the reason for me making this video is because I found 2 articles online on a website called Mary Sue. Mary Sue is a feminist geek fandom website where they embrace the equality of women in things such as video games, comic books, and anime.
Ah yes, the Mary Sue. That's the website that Rags recently did a video on, talking about how Skyrim's modding community has become a misogynistic nightmare. And that was written by someone who works there at the Mary Sue, which you said just now was a feminist website. The problem with third wave feminism is that most of the feminists that are out there now see everything as being misogynistic or sexist or people just being objectified. But when it's something that they're called out for and they have to provide proof, generally they can't do it. Throughout the video, you're going to use your source from the Mary Sue to bring up these issues, and it's all by one person. But they also cite Anita Sarkeesian, who, if you don't know, you can check out a bunch of other videos about how cool she is. You can check those out later. But that's who they cite as some of these sources in these articles.
Now, although I might not actually entitle myself to be a feminist particularly, I actually still respect feminists, and that as long as they are not hypocritical, and as long as they are not extreme to the point where they're trying to make my sex look like cultural imperialistic dictators, then that's fine. I actually respect feminists in the sense that they are trying to empower and they are trying to actually put more light to the existence of women. That's totally fine.
Aki, you do have to realize that third wave feminism is completely hypocritical. I mean, that's all that feminism is. It's if you don't dress the right way, then you're being sexist. If you don't appreciate women a certain way, then you're misogynistic. Or even in this case, if you wear hoop earrings, then that's cultural appropriation. I don't understand how you can sit here and say that third wave feminism is not hypocritical. Or at least in the text that you want it to be not hypocritical. I mean, obviously if you're going to read the Mary Sue, I guess you're trying to look for more viewpoints. But we'll just go ahead and say that I'm just being insane, and we'll move on to the next part.
Fighting for equality isn't a crime, so I just wanted to give you guys a disclaimer before I get into the rant here that no matter what I say, whatever I read out to you guys, if you do have an opposing opinion, please do not go out and witch hunt. That is not what this channel is about. I hope that I encourage that this behavior will end on a good note, or at least if you do disagree or have any opposing opinions and you do want to address this to the sources, then you do it in a much more in a rational way where if worse comes to worse, you both can just agree to disagree.
Or if you're like me, you'll be here making a video about the stupid things you're about to say.
Now, in this first article back in July titled "Stop Making Excuses for Fan Service" by Amelia Cook, she basically points out in details that it's become more difficult for critics to really take anime seriously, and that a big reasoning for this is the overly done work of fan service.
Okay, let's go ahead and dissect this for a little bit, because you started off with that every year anime fans wonder why Japanese animation isn't being taken more seriously by critics argument, but in this article, there's no one that says that. In fact, there's no link or any hyperlinks to critics. Instead, it's just hyperlinks to different anime that you could watch, like Flying Witch and Mob Psycho 100. But there's never any indication of what critics aren't taking this seriously. And to be fair, there are critics out there that do take anime seriously. They might not take the ones that you like seriously, but they do take them seriously nonetheless. Traditional anime, typically by Studio Ghibli, usually receive really high marks, including the one animated film Ponyo that came out. Now I know you're going to bring this up later about Studio Ghibli films, but let's just take Ponyo for an example. Anime critics have given this pretty much the benefit of the doubt. It's a Studio Ghibli movie and it has zero fan service. Like, there's none. It has a 91% on Rotten Tomatoes and it's been rated fresh. The audience score gave it an 83%. Even on my anime list, I think it's sitting somewhere between a 7.9 out of 10. So people do generally like these films and they are very critical of these.
She then goes on to say that maybe critics would actually take anime a little bit more seriously if, quote, the face of anime wasn't so pro-Gamergate and anti-Ghostbusters trolls. And if some of you are unfamiliar with the Gamergate and Ghostbusters situation, then I'll put a link in the description below to those articles.
So here you've linked 2 articles. One of them is about Ghostbusters star Leslie Jones calls for stronger Twitter guidelines after racist abuse. And the other one is about how anime avatars on Twitter help explain politics online in 2015. But for now, let's go ahead and we'll just dive right into just one of these. And that's going to be the Ghostbusters article that you linked. So The Verge released an article talking about Ghostbusters star Leslie Jones getting called pretty much racist names on Twitter. So here's the second paragraph of this article that says, the root of the abuse is Jones' starring role in the rebooted Ghostbusters, a movie that angered certain corners of the internet by featuring an all-female cast, a decision that apparently ruined the childhoods of some individuals. While other female cast members faced their own attacks, the worst of the vitriol was saved for Jones, who is black. I'll get to the rest of the article here in a second, but let's go ahead and just talk about the fact that it's not because she's black that they thought the movie was terrible. They thought the movie was terrible because their acting was awful. They thought that the movie was just very subpar compared to the original movies, which were meant to be a comedy. These jokes were pretty much fat jokes and women jokes that no one cared for. And I mean, come on, Rich. Like, you wrote this article, you know what internet culture is like. I mean, it's low-hanging fruit. And as I've said before in probably another video, if you've been a part of any online video game, people are gonna say the N-word. It's not something that we're gonna like just dance around. They call you all kinds of names that are typically used for black people. There are a whole bunch of racist names. That's just how the internet culture is. Now, is it right? No, not really. It's not right. It's not right at all. But that's just the low-hanging fruit. Those are just off the top of the heads of some people because they've been conditioned this way. Some trolls co-opted existing memes to target the comedian, referring to Slain Gorilla Harambe and the infamous Donkey Kong rap in their tweets, while others simply hurled racist slurs from behind memes and ubiquitous anime avatars. You know, generally if you want to stay anonymous online, which is probably preferred for some people because, you know, it keeps their real name out of it and it keeps, you know, people from doxing them for the most part. But that's typically why people use made up fictional names or they use a different picture than one of themselves. So to attack anime avatars in this fucking article is retarded because it's not the anime and it's not the anime creators. It's just people that use anime avatars. I mean, have you been on Twitter? Have you been on Twitter? Like, I literally have an anime avatar. Most of my followers have anime avatars. I mean, it's not insane to look this up. I mean, not everybody that has an anime avatar is out to get the black people. I mean, some of those people are the black people, Rich. But that is ultimately going to segue into this next article that you linked, which is how anime avatars on Twitter help explain politics online in 2015. This article was actually the hardest one to read because it was a bunch of attacking people with anime avatars, which I'm sure you wanted to play a hand in your politics game. So here, the author of this awful article, Max Reed, said, so egg avatar is shorthand sometimes for dumb, and sometimes for new, and always for not worth bothering with. But it is not only the avatar category that has certain stereotypes attached to it. There's the eagle avatar, sometimes crying, which, well, I imagine you can guess what that person is interested in, and the South Park character avatar, which I associate with people who want to argue about libertarianism. And then there's the anime avatar. And as you can see right here in the article, it pretty much has a tweet from Ra Bushiza who says, likelihood of sexism, Avatar is a dog, 40%. Avatar is an anime character, 73%. Avatar is a car, 100%. But don't worry, it doesn't stop there. So, car avatars, I wouldn't know. Anime avatars, though, are fast approaching the egg avatar as the litmus test for worth engaging, especially around Gamergate and adjacent issues like feminism. I don't know how many times I have to say this in a video, especially one of this caliber, talking about these people who want to believe in feminism or the ones that are male feminist allies. Gamergate isn't a hate movement. Gamergate is about wanting ethics in video games journalism. That's all Gamergate is. And the people that are upset at the anime avatars don't want us to want ethics in video games journalism. I mean, I can sit here and explain what Gamergate really is. I mean, essentially the TLDR version of it is Zoe Quinn was essentially having an affair with her boyfriend while she cheated on him. And they didn't disclose in any articles that he wrote about a game that she had made, and he was promoting it. There was no ethics in there whatsoever. And when it all came to light and the entire thing broke down where it came out that she cheated on him, people started attacking her, which is do not do that. But that's essentially what started, quote unquote, Gamergate. And people said, well, we need ethics in video games journalism because obviously if you're going to promote a game and you're going out with this person, then there needs to be some kind of disclaimer. There needs to be some kind of ethics here. And that's essentially the long and short of what Gamergate started as back in 2014. But now it's been conflated into this hate speech, hate movement, whatever you want to call it, for no reason. And it's definitely not that. But we got a video that we have to go ahead and debunk, so we'll leave that one to rest for a while.
Now, for what I'm saying, it looks like she makes it very clear that this isn't to tackle nudity and it isn't to tackle hentai where sexualization is expected, thank God.
Well, of course, if you attack hentai for what it is, which is something that's a product of the porn industry, then I'm sure more people would have a problem with that, especially coming from feminists who essentially think that it's pretty much queer baiting if you wear a plaid shirt.
But it's to tackle shows and scenes and characters where sexualization just doesn't make any sense nor serve any purpose. And in that light, if the motive really is to try and get critics to be a little bit more serious about anime, then I agree. How can you take anime seriously if it's really overrun by fan service?
Then Akidearest, explain to me why Pulp Fiction from 1994, which pretty much features Quentin Tarantino saying the N-word multiple times, a guy getting his brains blown out in a car, and a GIMP, in that movie, why is that movie still one of the highest rated movies of all time? Rotten Tomatoes has it at a 94% and IMDb has it at an 8.9 out of 10. Obviously, if people had a problem with these things existing or just the overuse of any single swear word or the N-word, then obviously it wouldn't be very well received. Now, when it comes to anime, you do have to take into account that typically, anime is made to target a demographic, which I don't know if you understand what demographics are, but it's essentially something that lets you know who's watching what and what their age range is, what ethnicity they are, and where they live at. It's pretty much like a Nielsen rating. When talking about different demographics, there's a bunch of different genres that exist. One of them being shonen series, and one of the anime YouTubers known as For Neverworld is heavily into shonen, and it's mind-blowing because I can't watch that many shonen series at once anyways, but he has a really firm understanding of what shonen is about. He knows who it's targeted towards. Typically, if you read Shonen Jump magazine, that's a shonen magazine. It's Shonen Jump. It's right there in the fucking title. And its demographic is for young teenage boys. It's to give them these stories that they crave about being a hero and growing up and following your dreams. Whereas shoujo manga and things of that nature are meant for girls. It's meant to be girls comics for a younger demographic. Like, those are things that exist. Now, when you start to get into a little bit of the ecchi stuff, which is pretty much titties flying everywhere, then yeah, there's a demographic for that. It's meant for select type of people.
If it keeps blurring the lines between what is a good story and being a complete money grab, then I wouldn't really take anime seriously either if all I saw was just fan service in my face.
So I guess if we try to relate anime to real life movies, or that's what I call them, real life movies. I know that's live action is the real term, I get it. But are we not going to say the same thing about 2 Magic Mike movies being released? Because that was pretty much objectifying men. I'm sure that you're not going to say anything about those movies, are you?
Now, I'm not saying that fan service should just disappear altogether. In fact, I actually quite like looking at characters such as Sonico being thick in front of the screen. But fan service should just be done in moderation enough where the actual good stories and the actual serious stuff can actually be unveiled to the point where critics actually can take anime seriously.
If you're watching No Game, No Life for the story, then I think you've lost the plot. Clearly, in just the clip that you show in this video, it's pretty clear that it's pretty much based around fan service. It's meant to be a fantasy world. They are a brother and sister that are in a fantasy world, and that's what's going to happen. I mean, this is not real life, for one. And two, even if it was, I mean, that's the intent of the creator. He wants it to be this way. I don't know why you have to always compromise on what the creator wants.
So yes, to a good and what I think is a fair extent, I actually do kind of agree with this article.
Yeah, I think you would agree with this article, seeing as it's pretty much talking about not spending money on pretty much fan service in general. I mean, if you like something, then support it. Like I said, it's set to a certain demographic. These people will buy these items and they'll do it happily. And I think it's super hypocritical of you to say something about how bad fan service in anime is and how critics won't take it seriously when all you do is promote your merchandise in your shop, and it's pretty much based around tentacle porn. It's literally tentacle hentai, which is one of the most well-known genres of hentai that exist. How are you going to say that fan service being an anime and how you shouldn't support it, and reading this article and how you agree with it, and how everything is just pretty much terrible? That's so hypocritical of you. Quit it with that shit.
So I don't think that anime has been overdone by fan service to a point where it seems like it's brainwashed us or made our mindsets. Unless that an anime has fan service, then we're not gonna watch it. I don't really think it's come to that extremes yet. Maybe with some people, but that's really like the hardcore fandom, and kind of the reasonings why we don't really like fan service in the first place is because the fandom is annoying as shit.
If people let anime dictate the rest of their lives, then there's something wrong with them and they should seek help. But to say that this fandom is the reason why this is this way it's blatantly untrue. Before I recorded this video, I spoke with a lot of people that live in Japan, a lot of the friends that I have accrued over time since about 2011, and I asked them if they think that fan service or anime in general has brainwashed the general public, or how they speak to women. And the answer will probably not shock you, because if you're a person with any common sense, then you know that the answer is no. No one's brainwashed from animation.
I mean, clearly we've hyped up a lot of serious anime with near to no fan service at all, such as One Punch Man, and then the hype eventually led to Mob Psycho 100. Right now I'm watching 91 Days, near to no fan service at all in that. And in earlier seasons we had Erased, as well as Boku no Hero Academia. And every Ghibli movie ever, which is basically a world that is untouched from fan service. Thank God!
Well, for one, your jump cuts, they're fucking atrocious, and two, I mean, I think that anime should have titties in them. Now, as much as I don't like the ecchi anime where it's pretty much a cock tease, no, I don't particularly care for those, but that's just my own personal preference. Either you're going to give me the full Monty in a hentai, or you're just going to make it very safe for work for me to watch around anybody that I may watch anime with.
So there's mature anime, and there is a pretty good mindset for finding good stories and finding good anime whenever you see it. But I'll agree that there's probably more moe and fan service in anime than I've ever seen, and probably to a point where it's actually almost exhausting to look at.
There's an age-old saying that if you don't like something, then don't do it. So if you don't want titties in your face, then don't watch anime with titties in your face. I mean, you even pointed out that there were all these shows back when this video was recorded that you made, that there were shows without fan service in them and you were enjoying them. So why shit all over the ones that have fan service in them? I mean, we're not even to the worst part of this video. We're not even to the worst part of what you say about fan service and how moe is taking over.
Because again, you know that the fandom is annoying as hell.
I don't know what you mean by that. No one that's ever came to my video has been blowing me up saying, hey, you know what'd be really great is if you watch High School DxD. That's a great show with titties if you like it. they may recommend it to me, but they're not in my shit.
Now, in her second article called Moe Misogyny and Masculinity, it goes over how Moe characters with clumsiness and innocence while being oddly sexualized sort of encourages creating an ideal woman that just doesn't really exist.
And here's where we start to get into the thick of the cancer, because, I mean, if people think that way, like I said, they should probably get help. But if I'm watching an anime, I'm not going to assume that there's a girl like Sanako out there, like you pointed out. Like, sure, you might think that she looks good thick, but I'm not going to sit here and say that, oh man, I really wish that there was a girl just as fucking retarded as she was. It doesn't happen that way, Akidearest. It never happens that way. And if it does, then there's something mentally wrong with you.
And then she goes on with her observation that maybe she thinks that this is creating a poor representation of females for kids watching them.
Hey Aki, have you ever seen the anime called Hamtaro? I'm sure you probably saw it on TV or at least heard about it, seeing as it's one of the shows that came out in the early 2000s, and it ran for 6 years on TV. It's a show that on my anime list is rated G for all ages. And that show has nothing to do with brainwashing children or giving them the wrong representation of what hamsters do. It definitely doesn't tell them how to treat women poorly. I mean, there's a bunch of shows that are pretty gritty, and that's what their job is. They try to set up a story and show you the real dark side of things. But there's also lighthearted ones like Sweetness and Lightning, which I think you bring up in this video later on. Is that a poor representation of how like kids are like treating women? Because in that show, it's one of the best shows I've ever seen because it's really calm. It's just a show about a father who is just working and trying to take care of his daughter. And the show is really wholesome. That's not giving kids a bad representation of how to treat women. It's not telling them how to disrespect them at all. Even for shows that are rated G for all ages, that's what the demographic is for, Aki. The demographic for Hamtaro is for children. It's for little kids. They're not expecting kids to go out and watch Witchblade. Like, that's not their target audience. Their target audience for Witchblade is for people like me that want to see big anime titties.
Which brings me to this next question, now digging deeper into the rabbit hole. Do I think that fan service makes a poor representation of women? And do I think that moe and fan service actually promotes an unrealistic expectation for females?
I've already watched this ahead like a million times, but I know that you say no, and the answer should be no, because anime is not sexist.
Not so much yet, anyway. I mean, then again, I live in a culture where it's not exactly the norm to really sexualize a kid. I think, if anything, they're really doing that to themselves with or without anime.
Aki, you do know that most of the characters that are in New Game are over the age of 18. So they're not necessarily children. They're becoming young adults. Like, this is a thing that you probably should not have put in your video. Or at least if you're going to put it in there, at least be right about it. And no, not every single Japanese person likes to sexualize children. It's just not a thing that everybody does. There are a few people that may draw something like that or make something like that, but on the scale of morality, it's not right.
In fact, you know what? Keep that in mind of what I just said. I'll come back to that in a bit.
I'm so sure that you will.
I wouldn't doubt that Japan is probably playing a different ballgame when it comes to this kind of topic. And honestly, I don't really want to touch upon that until I've experienced it for myself. I know a lot of people on the internet can say that Japan really is misogynistic against women when it comes to their anime. And to the naked eye, yeah, it does sort of look that way. But again, I can't and don't really want to touch upon that until I've seen it for myself, until I've actually gathered enough information to really push that through to say that.
A growing topic in some of my videos, or at least in the comments, is that people say that anime is sexist or it's misogynistic, which is just blatantly untrue. Because if it was, then it would only have to be one side. See, when people say that anime is sexist or it's misogynistic towards women, they forget that it's not just women in anime that's being objectified, it's men too. I've never seen anybody bring up the argument for Free or Haikyuu or any of those other series that exist. To say that anime itself is misogynistic or sexist, I mean, it's not really when you consider that most anime out nowadays feature strong female lead characters, and some of them don't either have big boobs or some of them do. If they don't, then that's fine because they're still strong characters. It's the way that they're written that makes them a good character. Now, as far as being objectified, Men are objectified too, like I mentioned, Free and Haikyuu. Those shows feature boys, and they feature them pretty much shirtless most of the time, or they feature them looking ripped. Like they're more jacked than I am. Like it's a thing that exists. While we're here on the topic about misogynistic anime, I noticed that in the article that you linked about moe misogyny and masculinity, there was a section that's a little bit down the page, like it's just near the beginning, and it says, "The Moe Manifesto is a book of interviews with high-profile individuals in moe subculture. When asked why so many characters are young, Moe Manifesto interviewees replied." One of the people that commented on this was Morinaga Takuro, who said, "People into moe are losers in the love market. In order for them to feel secure and happy, their partner has to be younger and appear to be within their control." You see, Morinaga Takuro is an economic analyst and university lecturer. This is his job, is to really just do whatever it is he does about the economy and also talk about the university stuff. That's fine. But you see, this man right here is Morinaga Takuro. This is him, Morinaga Takuro. You see, after doing some light digging of Morinaga Takuro, you can see that he's not particularly handsome unless you happen to be into that kind of thing, but he's also not the best type of person that you want to associate yourself with. You see, Morinaga Takuro was on the Moe Manifesto as an interviewee apparently, but I don't think that you ever knew that he was one of those people that introduced a penalty tax for pretty men in Japan. He introduced this new tax penalty for pretty men because it would make easier for ugly men to find love, is what he said. And it would also help Japan's low birth rate because of, pretty much the introduction of anime and a lot of different things and factors that go into it, the anime titties. But also, typically, men don't really care that much about moe. Moe is just cute girls doing cute things. And if you're up to season, then you know that Yuru Camp, or Laid Back Camp for all you Crunchyroll people, is actually one of those cases where it's just cute girls doing cute things. It's about camping, which I'll cover in a different video, but I mean, it's one of those shows where they're just cute girls and you're just along for the adventure. You want to feel calm and relaxed. It's not about anything sexual in nature. It never has been and it never will be. Now, if people perceive that as somehow sexual, then there's someone out there for you.
I'm going by a mindset where I still believe that most people are still smart enough to understand what is real and what is not. I've said this multiple times before in videos. The last time I said anything like this was during the article when I talked about that one teenager that killed himself for his waifu. That represented kind of like a really minuscule part of the otaku and anime community. Most people can tell what's real and what's not, and to say that fan service is giving the wrong representation of what women really are, to think that a real woman actually is probably like any of the characters from New Game, you probably need to get out a little bit more to understand how that works.
No, I can pretty much tell that the characters in New Game are a little bit more realistic than you are. At least they're not out there trying to clickbait the shit out of me.
I really think the obsession of moe and trying to attract yourself to a character that doesn't exist is the fandom in itself, that it's okay to like that character because they don't exist. So there's really no harm done in it, right? So then all of a sudden you get this debate of people saying what you're doing is wrong. You're having fantasies about a cartoon. I think it's only to a point where you actually start killing yourself over an actual character where it becomes extreme. But for the most part, I mean, I have a waifu and I have a husbando, and I can still differentiate when I see a good anime when I see it.
You know that like the best girl and the best guy, like the waifu husbando thing, is a joke. It's almost like you don't understand that it is a joke. And I don't know if you're trying to make a joke with this right now or if you're just this retarded. Liking a character, if you are killing yourself over them, then yeah, that's not very healthy. But it's okay to like a character. Like, I have an obsession over Tsubasa Kazunari, but I'm not out here wishing that she was real. I mean, that would be fucking amazing. But at the same time, it's not like I'm going to lose sleep over if she's real or not. I mean, sure, people have these weird tendencies where they do weird things. It's just a fetish of theirs, or they are seriously in some mental help needs.
I don't completely run on fan service. I don't completely run on, unless the character looks like Uta with sexy tattoos, I'm not gonna watch it.
Holy shit, that guy is fucking creepy. How are you attracted to that?
Mind you, I mean, it would help if I saw another one like that. But like fan service, I don't think it needs to necessarily just go away. I think that the marketing is still big for that, and I think it actually does kind of provide some kind of comfort and enjoyment to a series. Again, just done in moderation and not overly done, which is what I think that the article is kind of trying to tackle onto.
The article also does not touch on anything that objectifies men, just pointing that out there.
I don't really think that the article is too extreme. It's not really asking to punch it down or shove it down your throat to really just get rid of fan service and moe in general. It's really just trying to target the people that don't really support moe and fan service, and just trying to tell you that if you don't support it, then don't put your money to where it's going to create more of that.
Well, they happen to say that and a little bit more. It's near the bottom of the article where it says, if we can acknowledge the genuinely positive aspects of moe, while also criticizing the ways in which it contributes to a long-standing problem of female representation, perhaps we can build a more inclusive anime culture together. Are they retarded? And are you retarded? Anime is inclusive. It includes everyone. It doesn't say that the blacks and the gays and the transsexuals and the pansexuals can't watch it. It doesn't say that you have to like these characters either. If you're not into the medium, then don't watch it. It's just like if you aren't into horror movies, don't go to see Saw. Like, don't go there to see fucking It. Like, it's very simple.
Keep the fandom in line, and it says it word for word right there of what I just said in the article. So I think that this article is actually being really fair. I want to give a better light to feminists. As someone who doesn't even really claim themselves to be a feminist, I just want there to be mutual respect, and I think that these people are actually being overall respectful of anime and actually getting their point across.
Just in the articles that you've linked in your description, since I've looked over them, most of them don't have anything nice to say, including the one from The Verge and Select All. Like, those are pretty much just bashing anime avatars or bashing people that are a part of Gamergate, especially since this first article that you linked from the Mary Sue was talking about the Gamergaters and the fucking anime avatars. Like, it was attacking these people specifically. Why in the world do you think that this is a thing that exists? You're just trying to cover it up with saying that you're not really a feminist, but you believe in the feminist ideals, which is retarded because third wave feminism is cancer. And as I pointed out, a lot of your fans seem to think so in your comments section.
After all, moe is just a personal preference of what character you attach to, but what they're tackling is just the stereotypical stuff that you see, which is the clumsiness, the innocent ones, the ones who for some reason love sex but think that they know nothing about it. It's a really contradicting and yet turn on for a lot of people.
You literally have a shota fetish. A shota fetish is where an older woman has a romantic and probably sexual relationship with a younger boy, like a child. You have that fetish. You've said it before. I mean, how hypocritical can you get?
Now, when it comes to do I think that this is putting women in a bad light for kids to be watching of what they think females should be, I think that's when good parenting should actually start playing a role. I don't think that we should completely blame the media. I mean, they're only going to respond what is marketed. I think that they're only going to respond to what is the biggest demand. Now, it helps if you don't support fan service, then don't put your money towards the fan service. Put your money towards the anime that you want to be known.
That's what people have been doing for years, Aki. If they didn't like fan service, they wouldn't have a huge market for it. If there wasn't a huge market for fan service, they wouldn't make it because it would not be profitable for them. I mean, this is simple economics 101. Like, you have to know the things that you're saying, right? Like, let's take this for example. If I wasn't into hentai, let's say no one in the world was into hentai, it would have stopped a long time ago, but it's becoming one of the largest markets right next to anime in Japan. Now, it's hitting more here in the West, and some of them are even being dubbed over in English. I mean, this isn't a hard concept. I don't even know why I have to explain this, and I can't even explain it that well because you're such a fucking idiot.
The types of genres that you think should be the face of anime. That part is fine. Now, as far as the kids go, I don't really think that it's all media's fault. That, again, that's where good parenting comes in, and you can show them anime where women are put in a different and more powerful light. If that's the path that you personally want to go, then I would suggest maybe anime films such as Summer Wars, where there is a leading strong female character, quite several of them, mind you. Any of the Ghibli films, I mean, there's Princess Mononoke, such as Nausicaa.
I literally did not even edit that clip. Like, that whole whatever she did right there at the Princess Mononoke part was not me at all. Like, you could just watch the video. I mean, you can see it here, but just, if you don't believe me, just go watch the video, and there's a link right there. Just, I guarantee you'll find that same thing edited the same way.
Where the princess is strong in herself as well. Not giving spoilers, but she's a pretty badass chick, let me tell you. So you can show things like that to children where women are put in a more fair light. But I don't really think that it's to a point where I can say that moe and fan service has been brainwashing everyone. I don't really think it's gotten to that point yet.
And it probably never will. I mean, if you keep propagating it that way, then maybe. But generally speaking, I don't think that people are going to take seriously all this stuff that happens in anime. Like, there's not people running around with giant bastard swords. They're not doing that, Aki.
It's just gotten to a point where it's just so overdone and making us so exhausted whenever we see it. Kind of like Mirror Colors Phantom World, where, yeah, it was pretty colors and there was a lot of fan service in it. Seemed great at first and seemed really funny for like the first or 1 or 2 episodes, if anything. But as you went on, then it just got exhausting to look at. I kind of had that same vibe with Umaru-chan.
Then don't watch it, Aki. It's literally that easy. You just stop watching it.
So that's really everything that I wanted to cover as far as this topic goes. I mean, if anything, I think the weirdest part about this article is how it's actually using sweetness and lightning as an example for the few moe traits that it even has as giving a bad reputation on girls. Unfortunately, like, sorry to disagree with you here, but I honestly don't think that anime gives a bad rep on girls at all.
Finally, it's the one thing you say that actually makes sense. Like, Sweetness and Lightning is a damn good show. I would recommend to anybody if you're just, even if you're into like a lot of like Baki the Grappler shit, then at least just give this show a chance because it's so good. It's just real emotion. It's just real. The show is very real.
It's more of a father-daughter relationship, and I think it's a pretty emotional anime. There are some stereotypical moe traits in some characters, but I think it's only to give it that little bit of a kick, to give it a little bit more cutesy vibe, and to kind of pertain to the market that does like that kind of things in characters.
I think throughout the course of this video, you figured out what demographics were and what the target audience for some of these series are. It's almost like you did a little bit of research near the tail end of this.
But it's not overwhelming to the point that I cannot enjoy the anime. I think that it hasn't ruined it at all for me. Now, you could probably argue for something like Food Wars. Again, I actually am not really pissed off at the over-sexualization of anything in there, because Food Wars is going on the whole quote of like an orgasm in your mouth when you eat something. So they really try to make a punchline with that. So they're using moe and fan service in a way where it kind of works.
See, you guys that were looking at the thumbnail wondering what in the world I was doing making the thumbnail that way, well, here it is. This right here. This is the bulk of the video right here. So not only is that reasoning retarded, but it's also stupid, which is in itself retarded that I even said it that way, because, you know, I didn't write a script for this one. You see, Food Wars is a show that a lot of people like, and for a lot of reasons, and typically if you go on my anime list, you'll find a lot of different opinions and views on them, and generally people give it 10s, 9s, and 8s. But there was just one comment, one review that was amongst those 10s and 9s, and it's one that stuck out to me the most. They gave it a 3. And as someone that has seen Food Wars, at least the first episode, to know that, yep, this is pretty much the rest of the show, I can concur. And a lot of people that are in my Discord have also said the same things as well. If you go down a little bit in the TLDR, if you don't want to read through the entire paragraph that he wrote, you can see that the pros was that it was humorous and it had interesting characters, although some were clearly drawn from stereotypical personalities, which I can agree with because I like the way that the characters look. I think they're fine. But the cons is pretty much where this draws the line in the sand. Poor plot execution, especially towards the second half of the season, poor character development, predictable, and the overuse of ecchi scenes. as the saying goes, the same jokes get old fast. Now, as I say about pretty much any anime that people like, I know that someone out there will like it regardless, which is obvious because of the 10s, 9s, and 8s that you see. But for the ones that have seen the 3s, like this one, 603 people found that review helpful. That's a staggering number. The last part is the most important, the overuse of ecchi scenes. And that's what you argue in this entire video about anime being sexist, is the ecchi scenes, or the ones that have a lot of fan service. Not everybody is a fan of fan service, but a lot of people are. That's why there's demographics for those people. And if they don't like the show, obviously they'll stop watching it. That or they're a completionist. It just really depends on who you are.
With that anime, also the fact that Alice is bae. Just saying.
You know, in the famous words of third wave feminist, that's not consent. She didn't consent to you liking her, so therefore that's kind of the big R word. I think you better worry about your next steps there, Aki.
And again, please do not go out and witch hunt. If you are going to try and contact these sources of this article and trying to put it in their comment section, please do not bombard them with very irrational and just straight up bullying. If you do have a disagreement, then put it out really rash. But if you do really just have something blatant to say, feel free to put it in the comment section down below of this video, I guess.
Yep, because sometimes she won't even fucking read them anyways. So go ahead, waste your time.
So I appreciate you guys for watching. Subscribe to my channel for more anime and otaku related content, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!
God, can you be any more cringy? Like, that's like, you know, I'm a fan of burping, but at least I say excuse me, but that was just kind of fucking gross. That was, I gotta go to the bathroom really quick. Hang on a second. Hang on. I'll be like right back. Hang on. I gotta not do this. Well, at least this entire video's over and we don't have to see any more cringe for now. But at least the information's out there and you can form your own opinion based on what you've seen or even on her video alone. And if you do a little bit of research, you can see that most of what she comes up with are actually not all that great. Now, I know a lot of you guys that probably know of Akidearest and want to defend her in my comments probably will. But, I mean, these are big YouTubers, they can respond to criticisms. I mean, you don't necessarily have to yourself, but their intents and purposes are probably not what you're going to say to me, but we'll see how it all pans out later on. So, without wasting any more time, you know what the usual links are. They're pretty much Patreon, Discord, Steam, that kind of stuff. Follow me on Twitter, all that good shit. But I'll be making videos later on, and I'll see you guys probably then. Hopefully.